What happens when America's most trusted morning show host decides she's had enough of royal excuses and confronts a prince live on national television? What you're about to witness is the moment Robin Roberts threw away the script and delivered one of the most explosive interviews in Good Morning America history. If you want to see how this unfolds, make sure to subscribe and drop a comment telling me which side you're on, because this is about to get intense. The studio lights were blazing hot as Robin Roberts sat across from Prince Harry, her usual warm demeanor replaced by something much more calculated. The interview was supposed to be another softball promotional piece for his latest venture, but Robin had other plans. She'd spent years watching the royal family drama unfold, and today she was done playing nice. "Prince Harry, thank you for joining us this morning," Robin began, her voice carrying an edge that longtime viewers would recognize as dangerous territory. "I have to say, I'm curious about something. You've made a career out of talking about your struggles, your pain, your journey to healing. But I'm wondering, when does personal growth become a public performance?" Harry shifted uncomfortably in his chair, clearly not expecting such a direct opening. "I'm sorry, Robin. I'm not sure I understand what you're getting at." "Oh, I think you do," Robin replied, leaning forward slightly. "See, I've been doing this job for over 2 decades. I've interviewed presidents, celebrities, world leaders, and one thing I've learned is how to spot when someone is selling a story versus when someone is telling their truth. So let me ask you again, and I want a real answer this time. Are we here to discuss your latest project, or are we here for another chapter in the Harry and Meghan publicity tour?" The question hit like a thunderbolt. Harry's media-trained smile faltered for just a moment, revealing something raw underneath. "Robin, I came here in good faith to talk about the work I'm doing, the causes that matter to me." "Good faith?" Robin interrupted, her eyebrows raising. "Prince Harry, you've given dozens of interviews over the past few years. Each time, you've promised to tell your side of the story to set the record straight. But here's what I don't understand. If you've been so honest, if you've shared your truth so completely, why do you keep needing to come back and share it? Again, what part of your truth keeps changing?" The studio fell silent, except for the low hum of cameras. Harry's jaw tightened visibly. "I don't think that's a fair characterization of what I've been doing, isn't it?" Robin shot back. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've found a very lucrative way to monetize family drama. Book deals, Netflix series, speaking engagements, interviews like this one. At what point does healing become a business model?" Harry's composure was cracking. "Robin, I've been through trauma that most people couldn't imagine. Losing my mother, the pressure of royal life, the way my wife was treated by the press, and I'm not diminishing any of that," Robin responded, her voice firm but not unkind. "Trauma is real, pain is real, but so is accountability. You've spent years talking about how the royal family failed you, how the institution let you down, how the media was unfair. But I have to ask, what role did you play in all of this? Because in every story you tell, you're the victim. In every narrative, you're the one who was wronged. Don't you think that's convenient?" The color was rising in Harry's cheeks. "I've taken responsibility for my mistakes. Have you?" Robin pressed. "Because I've read your book, I've watched your interviews, and I'm still waiting to hear you take responsibility for anything substantial. You've apologized for wearing a Nazi costume, sure. But what about the deeper issues? What about the way you've handled family relationships? What about the promises you made and didn't keep?" "What promises?" Harry's voice was getting sharper. Robin didn't hesitate. "You promised to serve the Commonwealth. You took an oath, didn't you? Then you walked away when it got difficult. You promised to support your grandmother during her final years. Then you spent those years in very public battles with her family. You promised to protect your family's privacy. Then you wrote a tell-all book sharing intimate details about private conversations. So which Harry should we believe, the one making promises or the one breaking them?" Harry was visibly agitated, now his hands gripping the arms of his chair. "You don't understand the impossible position I was in." "Impossible position?" Robin's voice carried genuine incredulity. "Prince Harry, you were born into unimaginable privilege. You had access to the best education, the best opportunities, a platform that billions of people would dream of having. You could have used that position to change things from within, to be the modernizing force the monarchy needed. Instead, you chose to tear it down from the outside. That wasn't impossible. That was a choice. It wasn't that simple, Harry protested, but his voice lacked conviction. Wasn't it? Robin leaned back, her gaze never leaving his face. Because here's what I see. I see someone who wanted all the benefits of being royal without any of the responsibilities, someone who wanted the platform without the protocol, the privilege without the pressure. And when you realized you couldn't have it both ways, you decided to burn it all down and call it healing. The tension in the studio was palpable. Crew members who had seen thousands of interviews were frozen in place, sensing they were witnessing something unprecedented. Harry's carefully constructed public persona was unraveling in real time. "That's not fair," Harry said, but his voice was barely above a whisper. Robin's expression softened slightly, but her words remained razor-sharp. "Fair, let me tell you. What's not fair, Prince Harry? What's not fair is using your mother's death as a shield for every criticism. What's not fair is claiming to want privacy while courting publicity. What's not fair is breaking your father's heart and then wondering why he doesn't return your calls." Harry's face went completely pale at Robin's mention of his father. For a moment, the mask slipped entirely, revealing something vulnerable and raw. But instead of backing down, something snapped inside him. "Don't you dare talk about my father," Harry said, his voice now carrying a dangerous edge. "You have no idea what you're talking about." Robin didn't flinch. "Don't I? Because from what I've observed, you've spent the last few years systematically destroying your relationship with him, then acting surprised when he protects himself by keeping his distance. You've accused him of cutting off your security, of refusing to take your calls, of choosing his institution over his son. But did you ever stop to think that maybe, just maybe, he's tired of being betrayed by someone he loves? Betrayed?" Harry's voice cracked slightly. "I'm his son. Everything I've done has been about trying to get him to see the truth." "Your truth," Robin corrected sharply. "And here's the problem with your truth, Prince Harry. It requires everyone else to be the villain. Your father, your brother, your stepmother, the staff, the media, the institution, everyone except you. Do you know what that sounds like to someone who's been watching this unfold? It sounds like someone who's never learned to take real responsibility for anything." Harry stood up abruptly, his composure completely shattered. "I think we're done here." "Sit down," Robin said firmly, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd spent decades commanding television studios. "You came on my show, you're going to finish this conversation. And if you walk out now, you're just proving my point. About running away when things get difficult, the challenge hung in the air like a gauntlet thrown down." Harry remained standing for a long moment, clearly torn between his desire to flee and his recognition that leaving would be a complete public relations disaster. Slowly, reluctantly, he sat back down. "Good," Robin said, her tone suggesting she'd never doubted he would stay. "Now, let's talk about something else that's been bothering me. Your wife. You've painted this picture of Meghan as this innocent victim who was blindsided by royal life, who was thrown to the wolves by an institution that couldn't protect her. But that doesn't match the facts, does it?" Harry's protective instincts kicked in immediately. "Leave Meghan out of this." "I would love to," Robin replied smoothly, "but you're the one who put her in this. You're the one who's made her the centerpiece of every interview, every book chapter, every Netflix episode. So let's be honest about who Meghan Markle really is. She's a former actress who spent years in Hollywood, who understood publicity and media manipulation better than most. She knew exactly what she was getting into when she married you." "That's completely unfair," Harry protested, "but Robin was." "Just getting started, is it? Because I remember her interview with me before your wedding. She wasn't some naive girl who stumbled into royal life. She was strategic, media-savvy, and very clear about her ambitions. She talked about wanting to modernize the monarchy, about bringing change from within. But when that change didn't happen fast enough, when she realized she couldn't reshape centuries of tradition in a few months, suddenly she became the victim." Harry's hands were shaking slightly with anger. "You don't know what she went through. The racism, the pressure, the way they tried to silence her." "I'm not denying there were problems," Robin said, her voice becoming more measured. But let's talk about solutions versus scorched earth policies. Did you two try working within the system? Did you give it more than 18 months before deciding it was hopeless? Because from the outside, it looked like you expected the entire institution to change to accommodate you. And when it didn't happen immediately, you took your ball and went home. We tried everything, Harry said desperately. Did you? Because I've spoken to people who work within that system. People who've spent decades creating change slowly, carefully, respectfully. And what they tell me is that change within the monarchy happens over years and decades, not months. It requires patience, compromise, and the ability to work with people you might not always agree with. But neither of you seemed interested in that kind of work. Harry was quiet for a moment, struggling to formulate a response. When he finally spoke, his voice was defensive. We couldn't wait decades for them to decide our lives were worth protecting. But that's not what happened, is it? Robin pressed. What happened is, you wanted everything your way immediately. You wanted to be half in and half out. You wanted to keep the titles, the status, the platform, but none of the constraints. You wanted to monetize your royal connections while simultaneously attacking the institution that gave you those connections. And when you were told that wasn't possible, you declared war. The studio was dead silent. Even the camera operators had stopped their usual quiet movements, sensing they were witnessing something historic. That's not true, Harry said weakly. Isn't it? Robin leaned forward again, her journalist instincts fully engaged. Let me ask you this, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. If you could go back to that moment when you and Meghan were told you couldn't be part-time royals, if you could handle it differently, would you? Would you have stayed and fought from within? Would you have given it more time? Or would you still choose to leave, knowing everything that's happened since? Harry opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. The question had clearly hit something deep. I can see you're struggling with that answer, Robin observed. And maybe that struggle is the first honest thing we've seen from you today. Because I think, deep down, you know you made the wrong choice. I think you know that burning bridges with your family wasn't healing, it was revenge. And I think you're starting to realize that revenge doesn't actually make you feel better. I was protecting my family, Harry said quietly, but the fight had gone out of his voice. Were you? Robin's tone became almost gentle, which somehow made her words even more devastating. Because from where I sit, it looks like you've isolated your family. You've cut your children off from their grandfather, their uncle, their cousins. You've made it impossible for them to have a relationship with the other side of their heritage. How is that protection? How is that giving them choices? The mention of his children hit Harry like a physical blow. For the first time in the entire interview, he looked genuinely shaken rather than just angry. His voice, when it came, was barely audible. My children will have the freedom I never had, he said. But even he didn't sound convinced. Robin sensed she'd found the weak spot that would shatter his entire defense. Her voice remained controlled, but there was steel underneath. Freedom, Prince Harry, let me tell you what freedom looks like to your children. Freedom is growing up knowing their father chose public revenge over private reconciliation. Freedom is explaining to their classmates why Daddy writes books about Grandpa. Freedom is wondering why they can't see their cousins, their uncle, their grandfather. Harry's hands gripped the chair arms so tightly his knuckles went white. I'm breaking generational trauma. Are you? Robin's voice cut through his justification. Like a blade, because from where I'm sitting, you're creating new trauma. You're teaching them that when family disappoints you, you destroy them publicly. You're showing them that love comes with conditions, and if those conditions aren't met, you walk away and never look back. That's not what I'm doing, Harry protested, but his voice cracked. Isn't it exactly what you're doing? Robin leaned forward, her intensity building. Your father disappointed you, so you wrote a book exposing his private moments. Your brother challenged your decisions, so you turned him into a villain in your narrative. Your family's institution didn't change fast enough for you, so you spent years tearing it down from the outside. What happens when your children challenge you, Prince Harry? What happens when they don't live up to your expectations? Harry shot up from his chair again, this time with pure fury. Don't you ever suggest I would hurt my children. Robin remained seated, completely unmoved by his outburst. Sit down, Prince Harry, and think very carefully about what I'm actually saying. I'm not suggesting you would hurt them physically. I'm suggesting you've already hurt them in ways you refuse to acknowledge. You've stolen their heritage, their family connections, their sense of belonging to something bigger than your California bubble. I protected them from that toxic environment, Harry said, but he slowly sat back down, the fight draining out of him. Did you protect them, or did you isolate them? Robin's voice became dangerously quiet, because there's a difference between protection and isolation. Protection would have been staying and changing things from within. Protection would have been teaching them how to navigate challenges, not running from them. What you did was isolation, and you've dressed it up as heroism. Harry put his head in his hands, the weight of her words clearly hitting their target. Robin continued, her voice relentless. And let's be honest about what you've really taken from them. You've taken their birthright, their connection to 1,000 years of history, their relationship with family who love them. And why? Because you couldn't handle criticism. Because you expected special treatment and didn't get it. Because you wanted to have your cake and eat it too. The media would have destroyed them like they did me, Harry said desperately. The media. Robin's laugh was sharp and humorless. Prince Harry, you've done more damage to your own reputation in the last 4 years than the media did in the previous 30. You've given them more ammunition, more stories, more drama than they could have ever manufactured on their own. You didn't protect your children from the media. You made them bigger targets. Harry looked up, his eyes filled with something between rage and devastation. What would you have had me do? Stay silent while my wife was being destroyed? I would have had you be strategic, Robin replied without hesitation. I would have had you learn how to work within a system that's been around for centuries. I would have had you show some patience, some wisdom, some understanding that real change takes time. Instead, you threw a temper tantrum when you didn't get immediate results. It wasn't a temper tantrum, Harry said weakly. What else would you call it? Robin's voice rose with genuine incredulity. You demanded to be half in, half out of royal duties. When you were told that wasn't possible, you threatened to leave. When they called your bluff, you followed through and then spent years publicly punishing them for not giving in to your demands. If that's not a temper tantrum, what is? The silence that followed was deafening. Harry seemed to be wrestling with something internal, his face cycling through emotions like he was fighting a war in his head. Robin pressed her advantage, her voice becoming almost conversational, which made her words even more devastating. You know what the saddest part of all of this is, Prince Harry? Your children are going to grow up, and they're going to ask questions. They're going to want to know why they don't have relationships with their father's family. And you're going to have to explain to them that you chose pride over family, revenge over reconciliation, publicity over privacy. I chose love over duty, Harry said, his voice hollow. Did you? Robin's question hung in the air like a challenge, because love would have meant finding a way to make it work. Love would have meant putting your family's long-term happiness over your short-term satisfaction. Love would have meant teaching your children how to be resilient instead of teaching them how to run away. Harry was quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. When he finally looked up, there was something broken in his expression. Maybe. You're right, he said quietly, and the admission seemed to surprise even him. Robin nodded slowly, her expression softening just slightly. The fact that you can say that tells me there might still be hope for you, Prince Harry. But here's the thing about admitting you're wrong. It's only the first step. The real work comes in figuring out how to make it right. I don't know if I can, Harry said, his voice barely audible. That's the first honest thing you've said in this entire interview, Robin replied, and maybe that's exactly where healing actually begins. Not with blaming everyone else, not with justifying your choices, but with admitting you don't have all the answers. Harry looked directly into the camera, his eyes reflecting something that looked like genuine remorse for the first time. I miss them, he said simply. Then stop talking about missing them and do something about it, Robin said firmly. But understand this, real reconciliation means taking responsibility without conditions, without excuses, without expecting them to meet you halfway. It means being genuinely sorry. Not just, sorry you got caught. The interview ended there, not because time ran out, but because Robin Roberts had systematically dismantled every defense, every justification, every carefully crafted narrative that Prince Harry had built his public persona around. She left. Him sitting there, finally confronted with the possibility that maybe, just maybe, He was the architect of his own isolation. The power of fearless journalism on full display. Robin didn't just interview Prince Harry, she held up a mirror and forced him to see what he'd really become. What did you think of her approach? Was she too harsh? Or was this exactly the reality? Check, he needed. Subscribe for more explosive interview breakdowns, and comment below with your take. Do you think Harry can actually change, or is it too late for real reconciliation?